Hello. In this video, I'll be talking about how you can use different cubes, mainly the 4x4. You can use their mechanism in different ways. For example, you can turn 2 layers each time and use it as scramble it like a 2x2 and use it like that. Or you can scramble it like a 4x4x1 and then use it. So basically, it's using the 4x4 mechanism, and probably the other cubes too, to their maximum. You'll understand more once we get started. Okay, for this you would first of all need a 4x4 Rubik's Cube or a V-Cube 4 or something. Just a fully functional one. Okay. You will also need good imagination and some patience too. Okay, now let's take each type one by one, starting with the 1x1x1. Okay, now that's any Rubik's Cube in its solved state. This is a 1x1x1. This has one layer, this is one layer, this is one layer. You cannot scramble nor solve a 1x1x1 Rubik's Cube. So you should just get the idea. You should pick any corner, see this layer is 1, this is 1, this is 1. Okay, let's go to the 1x1x2. So in that, this is one layer, this is another layer, but this can be, these 4 layers in the 4x4 is divided into 2 layers. So we have one wedge over here. So scrambling a 1x1x2 will be like this. You can also use the 2x2 and scramble it like this. It's not a big deal. You should figure it out yourself. Now the next is the 1x1x3. I prefer to use the Rubik's Cube for this, just scrambling it like that. It's not a big thing. But you can also use the 4x4. Just move the outer layers on one side, that's all. Okay. Next we have the 1x1x4, where you move one layer each. Each of these middle layers, not these layers. Okay, so that was kind of weird, but anyway, let's move on. You'll get to know more of this. Okay, next in line is the 2x2x1. You can now you have to imagine one corner. You can divide this layer into 2, and this layer into 2, and this into 1. So you cannot move anything, and there is no middle wedge. So you have to move each of these wedges 180 degrees each time, because if you move them 90 degrees, you don't have any other choice. You can either move this back, or you can move this in front, that's 180 degrees, because there is no middle wedge over here, so you cannot scramble. You just need to imagine that way. Okay, so that's the 2x2x1. You can rather use the 2x2x2 for that. And you can solve it in 6 moves, like me, myself, and Pi says. Moving on, we have the 1x2x3. Now, I like to imagine this as the one layer, like that you don't have any middle wedges. Whereas you can look at this white side as 2x3. So you divide this into 3. So, well, basically all you have to do for the 3 is move these outer layers. So this would be 1, this would be 1, this would be 1 unit. Okay, so and you have to move them 180 degrees like last time, and you have to divide this into 2. So you have to move this the 180 degrees. So you scramble them like that, just like that. Next we have the 2x4x1, for which you have to again imagine this as one layer, imagine this as 2 layers, these 2 layers, and the 4 as this one. So you can move these layers 180 degrees each, then this layer, and this, like, randomly. You can even move this like a 2x2x1, and then scramble it like that. You just need to imagine properly. Okay, next we have the 3x3x1, for which you'd rather use this. All you have to do is imagine this is one layer, and there are no wedges and no layers in the middle, and there are 3 layers here and 3 layers here. So you have to move each 180 degrees like last time, and you can scramble it like a 3x3x1 and use a 3x3x3 like a 3x3x1. You could also use the 4x4x4 like a 3x3x1, imagining that this is one layer and dividing these into 3 layers. Well, all you have to do is move these outer layers 180 degrees and scramble it like that, like I showed you earlier on the 3x3. Okay guys, next in line we have the 3x4x1. Now, that's a little difficult to imagine, but anyway, this is one layer like the previous times. Then you can divide this into 3, that is, move these, of course, 180 degrees, and you can move all 4 layers over here, because we are dividing this by 4, so, okay, anyway, next we have the 4x4x1. Now that's a puzzle I like, really. You can turn this you can turn all these layers like that, and you can turn these layers, and that's basically a checkerboard pattern on the 4x4x1. It doesn't look like a checkerboard, but yeah, it is. So okay, now we have the 2x2x2. You can scramble it like a 2x2x2 by moving 2 layers each time. You don't need to worry about the 90 degree turns, because 180 degree turns. You can always turn 90 degrees. You can turn 180 degrees too. And you can scramble it and solve it like a 2x2x2 Rubik's Cube. I don't know why you do that. I think a 2x2 is cheaper, right? So you can rather buy a 2x2. But if by any chance you want to use it, it's just a fact that you can use a 4x4 like a 2x2. And next is the 2x2x3. Now that's also something that I like. Okay, so we divide the top layer into 2, one side into 2, the other side into 2, that is both sides into 2, and this middle layer into 3. It's more like a 2x2x1 first, and then you can divide these layers like that, which is which gives you a 2x2x3. Now, you need to worry about the 180 degrees in these layers, where you have to turn them like this, because look, there's a wedge here, there's a wedge here. Okay, so that's basically a slice, and when you slice it maybe 90 degrees, there's a wedge here, because it's the middle layer, right? So you need to imagine that there's a slice here, there are no slices here, this is one layer. You have so many things to imagine. You need to be patient if you're not really good at this. Okay, so as I was saying, there's a middle wedge here, so you cannot move anything over here, so you need to move it 180 degrees over here and here, and you can move these, that's all. You can move these 90 degrees, yeah. Alright, so have you guys ever heard of the 2x2x4 tower cube? Well, if not, it's just a 2x2x4, yes, and it's like the 2x2x3, just that it's shape-shifting, so that's also cool. So, you divide this into 2, you can move this 180 degrees as well as 90 degrees, but we will move it 180 degrees first. And this one too, because you're dividing these 2 layers into 2, so 2 pieces each, 2 units. Okay, and the middle layers, 4. You divide them into 4 and you get something like this. And then you can scramble it like a 2x2, which would, and in the actual tower cube you will be getting these white pieces bulging, even the yellow ones, because, it matters on what you imagine. So they'll be bulging up this time because they're, in the 4x4 they don't, because their thickness is only this much. But if you imagine another layer over here and another one over here, you would get to know what I mean. The 2x2x4 is a puzzle I really like, so I might be making a 2x2x4 tower cube tutorial using the 4x4x4 sometime. Okay, so next we can move on to the 3x3x2. Okay, now you could use a 3x3x3 for this, but there's just one small problem. You should ignore this middle layer, because it would get scrambled, and when you try to solve it like a 3x3x2, you don't need to worry about this, but then it won't be completely solved. The 3x3 won't be completely solved, so I don't really recommend that. You should, again, move these layers, and yes, 180 degrees again, and you can move this bottom layer here, so you can move these edge pieces. So there are some tutorials on YouTube which you can follow to solving the 3x3x2, and if you want to, so you can use this. Now we move on to the 2x3x4. So again, you move this and you divide this into 2, so I think you have to do it 180 degrees, yeah. Though I think you could move it like, well, I'll show you. Okay, this is 2, this is 3. You usually have to move it 180 degrees, and this is 4, right? So you can move these layers. So you can also move the middle layer. So what I was thinking was, if you moved it, well, one of these 2 layers like that, even 90 degrees, you can move this because there is a middle edge over there. See, that's for the 4x4, and even for this, but you cannot move these, of course, because this layer has only 2. Then again, I'm repeating myself, you need good imagination. I mean, imagining skills. Moving on to the 4x4x2. Like the 3x3x2, we have to move these layers, and then these layers, because we are dividing these into 4, and then we can divide this into 2, like that. So we get a scrambled 4x4x2. Alright, then we have the 3x3x3. Now, while solving the 4x4, if you know how to solve the 4x4x4 Rubik's Cube, then you should be knowing that we always reduce the 4x4 cube into a 3x3, so it's not really hard. All you have to do is move these outer layers 90 degrees and, you know, move it. Because these edges will remain paired, and what we have to do while solving the 4x4 is pair these centers, all the edges, and make it reduce into a 3x3 like this. So that's simple, so you can figure it out yourself. It's just moving these outer layers everywhere. In all high order cubes, you need to solve it like a 3x3 once you've done the edge pairing and the centers and the edge pairing. Okay, after the 3x3x3, we have the 3x3x4, which is similar, except that you get to move one layer. You need to move each layer for 180 degrees. These layers, but you can move these 90 degrees because you're dividing this into 4, and since you're moving this to a safer place on this bottom, you can move it like that. Okay. Next in line after 3x3x4 is the 4x4x3. Now you can imagine this, divide this into 3 layers, this into 4, and that into 4, so you get something like this. Of course, I think 180 degrees each time. Okay. And then the middle layer like this, just these outer layers, like this. You can move them. These centers will get messed around, and it's a bit tricky cube to solve. It's a cuboid, of course, but you're using a 4x4 to do it like, you know. That is, I mean to say, since you're using a cube to you're using a cube like a cuboid, you will not get to know that which pieces are bulging, and you're not able to move this, and you might make a mistake. So anyway, we'll get to the last one, which is the 4x4x4. No, that's not the last one, but just saying. Okay, you know how the 4x4x4 works. I don't need to tell you. It is a 4x4x4. Okay, now I'll tell you some other cubes you can use, like the 5x5x5. You can use this as the 1x1x5. Just turn each of these middle layers once, or as many times as you want, but yeah, you can move them 180 degrees or 90 degrees, but you cannot move any of these pieces, okay? Then you can also use the 5x5 like a 3x3x5, like this, and then dividing. Of course, I'll tell you. You can either move these outer layers, dividing into 3, like that, or you can move the outer and the inner layers. So this remains the center, this is one layer, this is another, and so you basically get a scrambled 3x3 like this. For example, if I do this, these are similar, right? So Okay, so and then you need to divide this 5 layers. So this is also quite difficult cube to solve. If you have a 5x5 and you want to use it like this, it's good. You know, you're getting into solving cuboids. That's what I like. Okay, so basically why I made this video, because I had these thoughts in mind, and I really like to play with the 4x4 and try to figure out how many different possibilities of cuboids I can bring with the 4x4. I don't have any higher order cubes like the 7x7 or the 8x8. That would be quite fun to play with. Okay, but the 4x4 is quite multi-purposeful, you can say. And thanks for watching.